That sounds fun. That sounds fun.
Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of That Sounds Fun, The Seasons. I'm your host, Annie F. Downs. I am so happy to be here with you today. Listen, today we are answering the question, how do I prepare for the harvest? If you've been wondering what is going on with the next generation, if you've been hearing some of the same rumblings of God doing new things around the world that I've been hearing, if you're confused about teenagers, me too, and you want some help understanding them, this is the episode for you. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about one of our incredible partners. This is an ad by BetterHelp. This time of year can bring up a lot of stress. Here in Tennessee, most schools are back in, fall activities are starting, and schedules are just getting a lot busier. There's so many things we can do to manage the stress, but if therapy is one you've never considered, I highly recommend starting there. It may sound like one more thing to add to your to-do list, but give BetterHelp a try. They are the world's largest online therapy platform, so you don't have to leave home to make it to your appointment. You can just join a session with the therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our friends get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/thatsoundsfun. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/thatsoundsfun. Okay, today we're diving in with my friend Dan Blythe. I have no chill about this conversation. I know we've heard a lot of things about what God is up to in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and even stories about what God's doing in London. My friend Dan has got a front row seat to all of this. I cannot wait for you to hear these stories. Dan lives in London with his wife, Charlie, who's another dear friend of mine. He's the global youth director for Alpha. And as we get closer to fall and think about what God's up to around the world, he is helping us understand how to prepare for the harvest, particularly in the next generation. How do we pray for the next generation? How do we recognize the harvest? So if you're following along in your TSF Seasons Guidebook, get those note-taking pages ready because this is a note-taking one. We are on page 84. And as always, the guidebook is available for you right now if you don't have it yet. It's at anniefdowns.com/seasons. Okay, here's my conversation. Y'all better buckle up. We're talking about some good stuff today with my friend, Dan Blythe.
That sounds fun.
All right, Dan, welcome to That Sounds Fun for your first time.
Thank you, Annie. It's such an honor.
What a joy. I'm so glad to be with you today. I want to set the stage for our friends listening that you and I are friends because I met your wife first in Greece a couple of years ago. We became best friends instantly. And then I was like, well, then I got to know Dan. I got to know the boys. Will you talk a little bit about you and Charlie's life? Where do you live? What do you do? Like kind of set the stage of who you are so we can jump into this harvest conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We live southwest London, maybe about an hour away from Wimbledon tennis. So if you know where that is, we're near there, but we're not in the posh end. We're in the rougher end still. We love it. We live in a 2-bedroom flat with our 2 little boys, Knox and Nico. Knox is 7, Nico is 3. And we just love London and we love the people here and we love the city.
How did you grow up in London? Did both of you and Charlie grow up there?
No, she grew up down south in Southampton and I grew up in Surrey, which is on the outskirts. And then she moved to London first. And so when we got married, it was just like, she's like, if you're going to marry me, you got to move in with me. I'm leaving in London.
Yeah.
This is home.
Yeah. And who is your Premier League team? I don't think I know this.
Yeah, no, it's Chelsea Football Club. That would be my local. It's
Chelsea.
Literally about a mile away. Yeah.
No way. Do y'all walk?
We can do, but we will get the tube.
Yeah, there you go. Of course. Are we going to be okay that I'm Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, when I say we're Chelsea fans, we're not like the diehard fans that won't speak to another London club. You know, we appreciate Arsenal. They're a good club.
Okay, great. That makes me happy. Arsenal, and I like, what's the one that Eddie Howe used to coach? Oh, come on. I can't remember. They came all the way up.
Brighton?
Maybe.
What, are they a London club?
Welsh. No, I think it's Welsh. I think it's all on that side.
Right.
Someone is yelling it at me. I'll look it up. But clearly I'm a huge fan of that team too that I can't remember the name. But that's my number 2. Not today though.
How come you support Arsenal? So,
well, you know what, Dan? I used to be, this is a strong story to tell you. I used to be Liverpool. When I started, a bunch of my buddies here were watching Liverpool. And so once the U.S. started showing it a lot, about, I don't know, a decade ago, we started being able to see Premier League on Saturdays and Sundays, or Saturdays. I would watch Liverpool because my friends were. And then I was watching by myself all the time. And my buddy Dave Barnes is a huge Arsenal fan. And he was like, hey, if you don't want to watch by yourself, you could always come watch with us and switch to Arsenal, which I know is not how the Brits would ever do it. I understand this is so not English. But I was like, well, I am watching Liverpool all alone, which is the opposite of their song, You Never Walk Alone, right? But
Yeah.
I was watching Liverpool by myself, so I switched over to Arsenal in order to have community around soccer watching.
I love that. I mean, when I come to America, if someone gives me a hat of like an American football team or a baseball team or basketball, like I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm so easily swayed.
That's right. That's me too. Okay, how long have you and Charlie been married?
15 years.
Okay. Wow. And then London all this time. When you moved to London, well, tell us what you do, and then I'll back up and ask you how you got there.
Yeah, so I'm the Global Youth Director for Alpha. So Alpha is like an organization which helps people have healthy conversations about faith. And so I work in the youth department, and it's the greatest honor to do that.
Yeah. I mean, the director of the Global Youth of Alpha. That's like no joke, Dan. That is a big job, dude.
It sounds bougie, but literally my job is just to listen and learn. And that's just the best bit about it.
And so have you been in ministry the whole time you've been in London?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So I got saved when I was 18, backpacking in Australia, did 2 years Bible college out there. Age 21, came back to the UK because if I could just help one teenager encounter God's grace, that's what I wanted to give my life to. And I've been in youth ministry now for 20 years.
All because you got saved as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. And my teenage years were like just messy.
Really? Tell me more about that.
So mum and dad got divorced when I was 10. And they naturally just, I don't know, they were broken, but somehow a friend took them to church and they both became born again Christians, like in the same year. And then they married. Yeah, I know, crazy. And then they married partners. So I got a stepmom and stepdad who are also Christian. And so from ages of 11, I was taken to church every weekend. And then both of those churches had like youth groups of like 3 or 4 young people, which was amazing, but they're all girls. And I didn't have any mates my age who were like just doing the stuff I want to do in life. And so although they had a youth ministry, it wasn't really one where like I was, really excited to go along. And in my teenage years, I was just a follower and I just followed the crowd. And wherever they were, my mates, I wanted to be there, fear of missing out, all that kind of stuff. Whatever they wanted me to do, I would do. And I was just like such a people pleaser. And because of that, I just got myself into a lot of mess, a lot of fights, suspended from school, just loads of different things. And then age 18, I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I can't live in this house with all these Christian rules. I'm just going to the other side of the world, going to live my best neighbours, home and away, beach life. And then I land there in Australia, meet some Christians my age, just so randomly. And they just take me boxing, surfing, to like a small group where I had loads of questions about faith. Like everything I'd heard about in black and white just came like colourful in front of my eyes. And I wanted to encounter the Jesus that they were living out and they were modelling. So I became a Christian.
I mean, that's kind of exactly what Alpha is, right? Alpha is the place where you can go and kind of ask any question you have. My experience in Alpha has been people don't ever feel pressured. I mean, I'm sure someone has in the history of time, but I have never experienced people to feel pressured at Alpha. They just come with all their questions. Yeah.
This is why I work for Alpha, because if Alpha can serve the local church by creating a space for non-Christians to walk in and ask their questions, and then for everybody to like agree or disagree, and for to be a healthy place for that conversation, and then walk out, like that just doesn't happen in church much, right? Like a place for those conversations. And so I'm really passionate that, if Alpha helps the local church swing open the door to have a conversation, then I think it's needed.
I want to tell you my fear about Alpha, and I want you to, because I'm sure I'm not the only one of our friends listening. I've always been afraid to be a volunteer at Alpha because I was scared I wouldn't have the answers. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what do you say to people who are in that seat?
Well, for all the people who are hosting these small group conversations, we say one of the number one things is you're not expected to answer the questions. Like, you're not there as a teacher. You're there just to facilitate a conversation and to say, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? And a lot of the time, like, I don't have a lot of the answers, especially working with young people. But what I'm realizing is like they're not expecting me to have all the answers, nor do they even want me to. They just want to journey with me in the exploration of the answers. So I'd much rather create a space where we can talk about it rather than just like chat GPT it or Google it by themselves.
How do you ChatGPT is a great way for us to get to my next question. How do you keep up with I mean, you've been doing student ministry for 20 years. It has changed drastically. How are you keeping up with what is cool? How do you keep up in your seat with the language that teenagers are speaking? That I don't speak that language anymore, Dan.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say two things on that. Firstly, I think to them, the language we use in church is like another language. Like, you know, some of the Christianese we use, like justification, sanctification, glorification, Calvary, resurrection, iniquity. Like, we use a lot of Christian language, which to them it's like you speak another language. So I think it works both ways. We need to try and find that middle ground so that both, you know, generations can understand what we're saying. But at the end of the day, the only reason I've managed to still be in youth ministry now is that I'm not trying to be cool, or I'm not trying to be relevant. I'm not trying to speak their language. I'm just trying to be the authentic me. Because if I'm not the authentic me, like, they know I'm faking it. I'm just pretending, you know. And this generation, more than anything, you know, you've probably heard, they're looking for authenticity. They're looking for role models. They're looking for realness. And so I don't think anyone needs to worry about whether they've got the right lingo. Just live your authentic life and they'll be attracted to that.
But like, if I have teenagers in my life, do I need to be playing the same video games? Do I need to be on TikTok? Like, is all of that, does it matter to the next generation that the voices that are speaking into their lives be where they are, like on TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we do go to their space and hang out, but it just depends, like, who you are. If it comes to actual, like, discipleship and, like, helping people on their journey, we need intergenerational, like, leaders getting involved, like, more than ever. If there was ever a time in history where we need people in the church of all ages to get involved, it'd be now. And so I think we do need intergenerational leadership, getting involved, mentoring, empowering, encouraging, discipling. And I don't think a young person is saying, you need to know about Roblox or Minecraft to be able to like disciple me. They just want someone who's done the journey, right? But at the same time, as a youth ministry or someone who's involved in young people, I think we should naturally be aware of their spaces and places that they go to, like, you know, the gaming world or sports or whatever into. Like, I'm naturally trying to find out what they're passionate about, and I will learn about what they're passionate about so that I can, you know, have something to talk about with them.
Yeah. You said that now more than ever, we need multi-generational investment in the next generation. Why is that? Why is that now more than ever? Why did they need it more than I did in 1998 when I was in youth group?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, we're seeing like a growth in attendance around the church of young people coming into church. So that'd be Gen Z and then Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is like anyone born after 2010. So the oldest is like 15 this year.
Jeez.
And these generations, Generation Z and Generation Alpha, like the biggest generations on the planet. And so, you know, so brands and different organizations are spending millions listening to this generation to make profit off them. But like, how much more should the church be like listening to this generation, not to make profit off them, but to encourage them and to empower them and to equip them? So I think it's important that if we're seeing these church attendance go up, we need people getting involved to disciple them and to mentor them and to empower them. So yeah, it's really just replying and responding to what we're seeing.
I mean, that is our question. Every episode we have a question, and today's question is, how do I prepare for the harvest? So I do want to take some time and talk about parents and some time to talk about non-parents, because we have both listening, right? So, and you're a parent. Are your kids Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to our friends who are raising kids. How do we prepare for the harvest, even in our own home? Like, what are y'all doing in parenting when it comes to introducing your kids to faith and preparing them for the world we live in, plus being teenagers right now?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's amazing if your church has got a youth ministry, but I don't think you need to like export the discipleship of your young people to a youth ministry. I think as a parent, you can be involved in that. And I am definitely going to be involved in that with my two boys. I think one of the most important things is that we let them see our intimacy with Jesus. Typically, you know, my kids go to kids' church on a Sunday, so they never see me worship. You know, they never see me praying with my wife. When I read my Bible, it's in the mornings before they're, you know, awake, and late at night when they're asleep. And so it'd be very easy for them to kind of know that I love Jesus, but never actually see me being with Jesus. But
Wow.
I'm kind of trying to like purposely like have my Bible out in front of them, you know, as hard as it is to read your Bible with the boys around. Like I want them to see that actually this is part of my life. And in worship, sometimes I keep them in so they can just worship with me and Charlie and just kind of see that actually this isn't something that we do. This is part of who we are. We are like, we love Jesus and we love spending time with him. So I think if you're a parent, what does it look like to allow your kids to see your relationship with Jesus?
What about those of us that aren't parents? Like, I don't have kids and I don't volunteer at our schools or our school, and I don't volunteer at our church's youth group. And so what's my role when I'm preparing for the harvest, when I'm thinking about the next generation? I mean, I should tell you, Dan, I have in my room where I pray in my house, I have these huge sticky notes and I have one for every year. So my 2025 sticky note is hanging there, and then I can just, it's like a journal. And it's a way that when people ask me to pray, I don't forget. But literally on my 2025 is, how do I see the next generation and how do I care for them? Because they're not in my house and they're not part of my everyday life. What's my role as an Annie?
Yeah. And I love that. And I think we need spiritual like mums and dads, but you're right. It's not that you need to actually like go for coffee with a young person. I think do exactly what you're doing. Pray. I think the fruit that we're seeing now, this kind of like outpouring, whether it's revival or revitalization or whatever it is that's happening, I think it is because of the prayers that have been prayed for decade after decade after decade. And so for the older generations, if you're hearing God's doing something with young people, please don't think it's exclusive to an age bracket. I think it's a fruit of all your prayers. So I'd say keep praying, pray like never before with that hunger and passion and desperation. And then, any opportunity you have to encourage anyone who is younger than you, even if they're like, a year younger than you, just to give them a word, a prophecy, to pray over them, just to see them, to listen to them. I think every time you encourage someone, you're giving them courage. And even just this week, someone encouraged me, and that word of encouragement, like literally gave me so much courage. And sometimes we underestimate the power of sending a text message or an email or a DM or just stopping someone and just praying for them and speaking, God's word over them. And so, I think just keep doing what you're doing. You're one of the biggest encouragers that I've seen online. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about your podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. I'm thinking about our youth pastor friends. I mean, I bet they get a lot of emails from unhappy parents. So if there's a world where we can just send a well done, that probably goes farther than we realize.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation. Tell you about one of our incredible partners. Y'all know I love starting off my day with a cup of tea, but while that steeps, I mix up my AG1 and I drink it first because it truly helps me feel more energized and clear-headed for the day. It's got all the vitamins, minerals, and pre and probiotics that I need. And y'all, the big news, they have new flavors. They now have citrus and berry. I'm so happy about it. They are so good. I even think it would be fun to make a smoothie and throw in these new flavors. And rest assured, the flavors in AG1 are derived from plant-based sources with no added sugar or artificial sweeteners. We love that. Your daily health drink just got more flavorful. If you head to drinkag1.com/soundsfun, my friends, get a free welcome kit worth $76 when you subscribe, including 5 AG1 travel packs, a shaker, a canister, and a scoop. That's drinkag1.com/soundsfun to get started. And I have another incredible partner to tell you about, KiwiCo. This one is for all my friends who are parents or aunts like me. I've got the best hack for keeping the kids in your life entertained with screen-free fun. And it's educational at the same time. You have got to check out the hands-on fun from KiwiCo. They'll deliver science, technology, engineering, art, and math STEAM projects right to your door. And kids of any age can explore their curiosity and build critical thinking skills through the power of play. Their crates are so fun. I was browsing the website to see which one I could send to my nephew, Sammy. And there's this adorable one that's camping themed where he gets to build a pretend bonfire with s'mores to cook. I think he would love that. If your kids are still getting adjusted to going back to school, KiwiCo is a great way to help them transition back to learning after summer, keeping their minds active and engaged outside of screen time. As aunts and parents and teachers, we are always looking for ways to supplement classroom learning and spark a deeper love for science and art and innovation. KiwiCo crates are a perfect solution. And I know back to school is a busy time. Remember, I used to be a teacher. KiwiCo does the legwork for you, delivering fun and educational products so your kids can spend quality time, tackling challenges and learning new things. Make learning beyond the classroom fun and easy. KiwiCo delivers everything you need for enriching hands-on projects right to your door. Tinker, create, and innovate with KiwiCo. My friends, get up to 50% off your first crate at kiwico.com, and the promo code is That Sounds Fun. That's up to 50% off your first crate at kiwico.com, promo code That Sounds Fun. Okay, now back to our conversation with Dan.
That sounds fun.
Give us some prayer points. Give me 2 or 3 things that you'd be like, pray like this when you're praying for Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Yeah. So one of the beautiful things about what we're seeing is that it's not just in one denomination. And a lot of moves of God and revivals in previous history have come through a denomination. But I get to work with the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, the Pentecostal Church, the Church of England. And what we're seeing is happening across it all. And there's not even a style either. One of the, I guess, the worries would be that some people are seeing, God pour out his spirit and they're thinking, oh, it's like this and it's like that. But actually, what I'm seeing, whether, the lights are on or whether the lights are off, whether there's a stage at the front or there's a stage in the middle, whether it's praise songs or whether it's quiet, kind of more worshipy songs, whatever, there is no style which is dictating God's presence. Wow. God is moving. And I think it's because of the hearts of the young people. There is a hunger and a desperation that I have not seen before. And so, they're titled the anxious generation. There's books, the anxious generation. They are massive anxiety, but yet in the presence of God, I think they're the unashamed generation.
Wow.
They're sharing the gospel with their friends. They're crying out on their knees, bowing down before God. And in 20 years of youth ministry, I've not seen that. So prayer points, I'll just be more, Lord, whatever you're doing in young people, more. And how can we just keep, I guess, fanning into flames, what God is doing?
Yeah. Will you tell me some stories or tell me, that is one of the reasons when I was I know who I want to talk to the harvest about is Dan, because you are front row watching what God's doing. Yeah, tell us about it. Tell us what you're seeing in the next generation. If you have some stories or some thoughts or some stats of light us up about what we don't know.
Yeah. So it's kind of messy, it's raw, it's unorganized, and it's not perfect. And that's
Are they just showing up at church?
They're showing up, yeah, but also really attracted to things happening in the night, like nights of prayer or nights of worship, or and stuff that is organized by church, but even stuff that is just organized by them. They'll just be hey, let's go around someone's house, acoustic guitar, kumbaya, my Lord. They do not care. Yeah, there's this beautiful thing of just they really do not care how cool it looks or how out of tune it might be. It's a real heart thing. So seeing that, I guess in terms of stories, we launched Alpha Youth for the first time in 2013. Okay, and so that first Alpha Youth series, 13 million young people around the world did it. And so that's why we felt we had to do a new series, just to be faithful with what God has given us to steward. We don't think Alpha is everything. It is just a tool. And so as soon as God says, I'm not using this anymore, I'm using this tool, we're going to use another tool. But we want to be faithful with what God has given us. And so this new series that we just released last November has been done by 470,000 or 450,000 teenagers, around that mark anyway. And
gosh.
In 71 countries, which is nuts. But the crazy thing is, a lot of it is in schools. And so we never really created a pathway for schools, because everything is through the church and for the church. But what's happening is that youth pastors are saying to their teenagers, do any of you want to run it in their schools? And they're yeah. So they're getting it all and they're running it. So a story would be
the students are running it.
The students are running it themselves. Yeah.
Dude.
So, that's the exciting thing. So Jasper, 17-year-old lad, just ran it himself. He made all these posters himself, everything. It was it was good. The posters we had for him, he didn't want. He wanted his own posters that he made. We love that. They're so creative. And he invited 100 of his non-Christian mates into his lunchtime hall, and then they did it. And then I think it was around the episodes around the Holy Spirit, and there was he gave an opportunity for anyone to give their life to Jesus. 61 out of those 100 non-Christian young people responded and gave their life to Christ. Yeah, it's just nuts.
That is nuts. The courage of Jasper, my gosh.
Yeah.
That feels like what I'm seeing in Nashville too when I watch the next generation. I'm watching some of my friends who are early 20s and down. They will go downtown to downtown Nashville on Broadway and just share the gospel and pray for people. Like, they do not care, Dan. They are like not held back at all. And me and my friends aren't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started as a youth pastor at age 21, I remember like walking through the town and I'd see like a couple of my young people and they're with their non-Christian mates. And when they would see me walking, they'd be like this. They're like hiding. They don't want me to come over and say hello because they're going to have to say I'm their youth pastor and they go to church. And so even though they love Jesus, like they'd be there midweek, like reading their Bible, loving Jesus, but like embarrassed to tell their friends that they're Christian. Now it's the absolute opposite. Like they're looking for an opportunity to tell their mates that they're Christian.
That is wild. If someone wanted to bring Alpha to teenagers, like to use the Alpha program, does it look like a small group in someone's house, or does the pastor have to start it? Like, what's the first step if they wanted to get Alpha for teenagers?
Yeah, so all they do is just head to the website, alpha.org, and there's like 2 training sessions, which are really important just to explain the culture of it. It's a culture of like hospitality, so we always have food. It's a culture where you don't have to like teach and tell everyone how to live their life. It's meant to be that safe space for them to bring their non-Christian friends. And you might say everyone's not like, invited on a Sunday, or, there might be certain, the whole like believe, behave, belong. Like I know at the moment, some people are like, well, you can't actually belong unless you behave. And I get that. But Alpha actually is meant to be an evangelistic space where they can actually come and belong, even though they do not believe. Does that make sense? So the training videos just explain all of that. And they're really important so that you get, the heart of it. Because if you just play the videos without the culture of it, it kind of like, it can fall flat. Because as good as videos are, it's really the culture of Alpha, which I think is the beautiful thing. And then you can just run it in a lounge. Your parents could run it, or you could run it in a school. You can run it in your youth group. It's literally there just to run it wherever you want.
It's incredible. I have a friend getting baptized soon, and who's made a ton of mistakes. And it's kind of like, this is me getting my life back on track. And when I told someone else, they kind of went like, I don't know if I believe that. And I had that moment of like, don't people get baptized at the start? That is the start. This isn't the finish line. We want them to belong and we want them to believe, and then we will see the fruit of that after they get asked the questions and after they make the decision to change their life. I feel like there's this old mindset that we sometimes get into, me too, so I'm one of us, that we sometimes get into of like, I don't want that person coming back, or I don't want that person sitting by me at church, and that's old wine skin, right?
Yeah. The word hospitality in the New Testament is this Greek word philoxenia. Philo means love, and xenia means stranger and foreigner. So it means actually what we're meant to be doing is setting the table for people that don't look like us, sound like us, behave like us, and those people like you're mentioning who like you think they should not have a seat at the table, and they're the ones we should be inviting.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard though, Dan, because we look at, I'm making up a story. This isn't a real story, but I'm thinking about our friends who are raising teenagers, and some of their teenagers' friends that aren't believers, they do not like them. It's a bad influence. They've led their kids to make decisions they don't want to make. How do we go after the kids? They aren't kids. How do we go after the students that have negatively influenced our own kids, or are the pain in the butts at church, or are the ones that are very different from us in background and race and upbringing? And how do we go after those kids when our heart isn't necessarily for those kids?
Yeah, I think the same way that we'd treat any person who's like opposing what we're doing. Jesus says, obviously, first step is to forgive, but the way we forgive is to pray for them. So I would literally be like, you've got your prayer wall, whether you want to write names or whatever, like I'd actually like be just giving those people to God in prayer so that your heart breaks for what breaks his heart. And then it does say, bless your enemy. So I'd be finding ways to like actually bless those people. I've found, a lot of the times praying for someone that has like hurt me or wronged me has helped. But when I've actually blessed them, and I normally do it secretly so they don't know, but like where it's, financially you give to somebody else to give to them, or get some flowers delivered anonymously, I don't know, whatever, a chain breaks when you do bless your enemy. And so I'd be trying to encourage that person to do the absolute opposite that your flesh is telling you to do.
Wow, that's it, Dan. Oh, bless them, and you can bless them secretly. That's really brilliant. It's also why when we talk to our friends in Single Purpose League that are all single women, and they'll say, should I pray for my ex-boyfriend? I'm like, nope. Don't. It'll only connect you. Don't do it. Let it go. Don't pray, because prayer so connects you with whoever you're praying for.
Right.
That's been my experience for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, because teenagers, even though the boldest teenagers that sort of like, I sit with today, like we're all still influenced. And so I think if you are a parent and you're raising teenagers, like you still need wisdom. I was so kind of like led astray in my teenage years. Like I'm lucky that I'm still like alive. I'm lucky that I'm kind of here today. And, if my mum had said, oh, I might have to like move you schools because of this situation, like I would have hated it at the moment, but I probably would have like understood now. And so, so I'd say to that parent, pray, whatever, like, love those people that, you'll find it hard to love for your own heart. But then at the same time, you still need to add wisdom. And if someone really is leading your teenager down a path and, your teenager's being influenced by them more than your teenager is influencing them, then of course you need to do what you need to do to add wisdom into that situation. Yeah,
that's right. There's forgiveness and blessing with boundaries.
Yeah.
Forgiveness doesn't have boundaries, but blessing can have boundaries of where they are in your life or in your kid's life, your student's life.
Yeah, well said.
That is, I can't fathom. I was talking to friends this weekend about what are you going to do if revival breaks out in a way that your enemy comes to your church, or the person in your family who has blown up your whole family returns. Like, what happens, Dan, when God keeps pouring out like this? Like he's doing something globally I've never seen either. I mean, it is a different thing. And what do we do when God brings everybody back or brings people to him for the first time? Is it the same? Is it blessing your enemy? Or what do you think? What do y'all talk about in Alpha when you go, hey, the people that are about to come in are going to make this messy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we always forgive, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to forget. And I think we can learn from those things. And so, like you said, like boundaries are important. I remember getting a haircut that was really bad haircut. And I remember at the time going, this is the worst haircut I've ever had. And then I left, and then literally 2 months went past, and I'm walking past the same hairdressers, and I'm like, oh, I need a haircut. And I went in again, and he did another terrible haircut. And I'm like, right, I forgave the first time, but I shouldn't have forgotten. I should have remembered and learned, So I think, obviously, I think we'd agree that we want people to like come back to church and count as God's grace and love. If Saul can become Paul on the road to Damascus, then we know that God can change anybody's life. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we need to allow them back into our life with the same power and control that they might have had or anything else. So, wisdom, discernment, boundaries, all that still needs to be in place.
Do you need Annies in the world, like aunts and uncles and people who are not parents? Do you need us as the leader of Alpha for Teens? Do you need us to jump in? Do y'all need more volunteers? Is there space for more voices in the life of the next generation?
100%. Like I feel like the harvest is plentiful and the workers are few, and we need absolutely everyone. And I love parents. I'm a parent, but I'm like, in terms of capacity, like I'm getting stretched. I'm really maxed out. Like my 2 little kids are like 2 little tornadoes, which just like like literally, I've got no problem sleeping at the moment because like, they just drain me. Love them, they drain me. So if you haven't got kids, what a beautiful season of your life that you're in. And so how can you maximize that? And so to be able to like get involved, to help where you can, not because you have to, but because maybe something is stirring in your heart in a time like this. I think this is a beautiful time for the church, for people not to spectate what God is doing, but actually contribute in whatever way you can.
I have a funny question that I did not send you ahead of time, but like, what version of the Bible are you reading with teenagers? Is there one, like, do they love the message? I'm sure each kid is their own kid, so each student is individual, but is there one version that you're leaning on right now?
Yeah, so NIV has just brought out a new one for teenagers called the NIRV, the New International Reader's Version. And so that is written in a way for someone who maybe doesn't have the strongest reading skills, but it hasn't got any like Christian kind of ease that they wouldn't understand. So, the word like iniquity would be explained, in sin or whatever, in a way that they can understand. And so, I'd use the NIRV. I think the Message and the Passion translations are always great for you to kind of grasp more like, poetic basic message that it's saying. But then, if a young person is trying to dive deep into like a Bible study of what the original Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek was actually saying, then there's lots of other translations. I think basically it depends where the young person's at and what they're trying to where they're learning. But the NIRV is a great one.
Okay, good. I'm thinking about people giving back to school gifts or thinking about Christmas of man, I want my teenager to get into the word, but my KJV isn't cutting it. They're not feeling the one they got. So NIRV.
Well, do you know what is also great is YouVersion have got so much stuff for the young people now, and you can even do stuff in groups, and you can do devotionals, and you can do there's just something for every single problem you might be going through. And so as they are an online digital generation, I always encourage teenagers to have a handheld Bible. Every youth festival I've been to this summer, I'm like, who's got a handheld Bible in their hand? And just kind of encourage that, because if it's just digital, then you kind of lose the context of the whole Bible. But if you have got a Bible and you are doing a digital plan that you can kind of do with friends, that's the beautiful thing.
Man, I am so bad about if I'm on my phone reading the Bible, it is 10 seconds till I'm checking Instagram.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to, I listen every day to the YouVersion because I'm doing a plan through YouVersion. But when it comes to reading, I do not have the self-control of some of the 17-year-old friends that we have. It amazes me. Will you talk about that for a second? I've been amazed to see how many people in Gen Z and even at the top of Gen Alpha are not as into technology. They certainly don't struggle with boundaries like I do. They're kind of way less into it than I am, it feels like.
Yeah, now all the negative effects are so prevalent and everyone can see it. It's like when cigarette packets got those lungs on the front and you could be like, oh, it does that. I'm not having that. I think for this generation, they're kind of seeing now the devastation it can bring if it's out of control. And so it's good that they're actually moving away. We did a big piece of research with Barna where we listened to 26,000 teenagers across 25 countries, all aged 13 to 17. And in the Bible one that we did, the majority of them said they wanted a handheld physical Bible. In a digital world, they did prefer reading an actual Bible.
Wow. Was there anything else that stood out to you from that research with Barna? Was there another piece that you were like, whoa, when it came back?
Yeah, there was absolutely loads because we did 3 volumes. There was Jesus and teens, there was the Bible and teens, and there was impact, social justice and teens. And in the social justice one, it just showed us how much young people really care about making the world a better place. And that was really good because it enables me to sit with pastors all over the world saying, hey, do you know in your country, I think it was in Canada and Australia, mental health was number 1. And then so I got to say, are you guys doing something around this area for your church? Because young people care. And if they don't hear that you care, then they're just going to think that you don't care. So that was good. Yeah. But in the Jesus Journal, and this was the one that I think really helped us shape the new Alpha U film series, they believe that Jesus was a real person. So in terms of him being a historical figure that walked the planet, everyone believes that it was real. He's not really myth or legend. But what they really did not believe that they could have a relationship with him and that he's active in the world today. Wow. So they do think he was a real person and he died on a cross potentially, but they don't know that he's alive and active today. And so for me, that stat was if we can help with the church globally, and every other youth worker around the world, just help close that gap so they know he was a real person who died, but he also rose again so that you can have a relationship with him. That would be amazing if in 5 years' time you did that same study and it's that gap's closed a bit.
Yeah, man, that is because it's okay, half the work is done. They believe he's real. We don't have to convince them that he was not a historical figure that was on the planet. That's already there. It's just, man, there's the better part. They don't know the better part.
That's it.
Hey friends, just interrupting this conversation one more time to tell you about one of our incredible partners, Ritual. Ritual's Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin isn't exactly a salad and a pill, but it is formulated to help you fill key nutrient gaps that you might not be getting enough of from your diet. Their multivitamin is truly the best. It has this little minty essence that I love, and it's designed with a delayed release, so it's easy to take on an empty stomach. We can all appreciate that. Plus, I really trust Ritual and their products. They conduct conducted a university-led clinical trial for their Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin, and the results, it increased vitamin D levels by 43% and omega-3 DHA levels by 41% in just 12 weeks. It's also third-party tested for heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified, so you know you can trust what you're putting in your body. Instead of striving for perfect health, aim for supporting foundational health. My friends are going to get 25% off your first month only at ritual.com/thatsoundsfun. Start Ritual or add Essentials for Women 18 Plus to your subscription today. That's ritual.com/thatsoundsfun for 25% off. And now back to finish up our conversation with Dan. Here's my other question while I got you. I'm following Saint Church. I'm following Al. I am seeing that something is happening in London and in the UK that is pretty unique to what God is doing on the planet. I mean, we're seeing it a little bit in New York. Thanks to my life in New York, I see some of the like supernatural wild stuff that's going on there. Will you tell me a little bit about what is going on in London? Everyone is going to church. Dan, what is happening?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a lot more like hunger and passion. And I think this generation is looking for like role models. You know, they grew up when it was all about like influencers, you know, wear your hair like this, wear your clothes like this, wear your makeup like this. But influencers only impact your outside, right? What they're really looking for, I think, is the presence of God. And then within that, a community of role models. Role models help you with your inside, your heart, your values, your character. And so I think when they're going to church, they're looking for spaces of encounter. They're looking for things that isn't like manufactured. They're looking for places that are not trying to make you feel something. You know, sometimes when, you know, you walk into a space and like they're trying to get me to feel something, like I think that turns them off. But when they walk into a space and it's like, they're like, we don't know what's going to happen. We're just going to worship and let God take over and just fully surrender to the Holy Spirit. I think that's what they're really kind of connecting with. And so, you know, Al's doing an amazing job with Saint Church, and there's loads of, you know, churches all around kind of the UK. And they're just saying, we're not going to work as hard at trying to impress you, you know, because it got to a point now when it was like, you know, we got a young and old tonight, you know, we got free pizza, free ice cream, we're giving away a Tesla. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got like, where does that go? You know, just if, you know, always, and there's always an element of that where in youth ministry where you need to kind of make a space so at least young people are going to find it fun. I think fun's important, but at the end of the day, it's God's presence which changes people's life. You know, it's presence which someone will come back for next week and the week after and the week after. And I think the churches that are just creating space for presence and just taking a step back and just saying, God, do whatever you want to do. I think that is, you know, people are seeing God move in a real significant way that we haven't seen before.
What are you seeing? Like when you're out on the streets or when you're like hanging out with friends, does it feel different there? Like, does it feel like something's rumbling?
It does. It does. Yeah. I mean, when I was sort of like, let's just say 10 years ago involved in like sort of like youth and young adult ministry, it was all about the speaker. Like, oh, who's speaking at this conference? Who's speaking at this festival? Who's speaking in this service? And it's like the quality of the speaker determined whether they were going to attend or not. But I just don't hear that anymore. Like they just don't care who's speaking. And I think that's a refreshing thing for like church leaders and event conference organizers. Like, young people don't need you to have this, like, you know, the Michael Jordan preacher of the day. You know, you can just have your local preacher, pastor get up, share their heart in an authentic way, give space for God, and then allow him to move.
That's what I keep seeing actually in some of the London churches I'm following and Renaissance conference, all stuff is like, oh, they're just putting up faithful people. They aren't putting up famous people. They're putting up faithful people. And it's people that you go like, oh, I'm thinking of my friend Bethany Allen. I'm like, Bethany Allen is well known for sure. She's an incredible teacher, but she has a life of faithfulness. She hadn't written a book. She doesn't travel and speak, but very much, but she's speaking at Renaissance because they recognize that there's a faithfulness to her that is, I just think that is different, Dan. That's different than it was. I mean, I've been doing this job full-time since 2012. It's different than when I started. It is so different. What people want is so different. How do we, in our local church, I mean, not all of us live in London, right? Like I'm living in Nashville where just about everybody claims to be a Christian. What do we do? What is revival going to look like for us? Do you think, like, what's it going to look like in the next generation in cities that are, I'm putting big quotes around this, cities that are Christian culture cities? You know, I don't know. I mean, I know you deal with that because you deal a lot with the U.S., but I could list off 10 cities for you that a lot of the kids are going to youth group or a lot of the kids are involved, but is there any fruit in their lives because it's real cultural? What do we pray indifferent if our city is culturally Christian, but we're not seeing people get saved?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think what we're seeing in the UK, because they're like a post-Christian or even pre-Christian generation, like they haven't got all that kind of like Christian, whether it's baggage or whether it's like exposure. Yeah, so they're kind of coming in, fresh, and that generation, they are searching spiritually everywhere, like crystals, like more people into crystals than ever before.
Yeah.
Like witch talk, it's like the TikTok for witches. So there is like they're seeking for spirituality everywhere, not just the church. But what's happening is when they are coming to church, they are encountering the living God, and the change that's happening, can't be faked. It's changed. So I think if you're a church and you're like, you're wanting, or you're praying that God will pour out his spirit there, like God does not want like a long distance relationship. Like he wants that. But I think that comes from like the hunger of the people. And so I would say, don't worry about trying to get the young people or the youth there. I'd say start with you. Like revival starts in your heart first. And if you're not on your knees praying, getting down desperate for God, like don't expect, your young people to. And I think a lot of the stuff we are seeing, it has started with the leadership team first. And it started with, the volunteers first, and like that, what God has done has sparked, and it's kind of like just like a wildfire kind of spread. So I'd say really value your church prayer meetings. If you don't have church prayer meetings, start church prayer meetings.
Start one.
And then just get hungry. It's funny. I've never been someone who's bowed down in worship before, and probably because I just was not in church environments where that was normal. Like I remember even sort of 10 years ago, we'd sing a song, a lyric in a song which says, I bow down in worship, and like we'd sing it, but I wasn't bowing, and what I see in this generation is that I see a lot of bowing, like on their knees. And it's a beautiful thing because it's that Hebrew word, barak. I bow down before the Lord and worship him. And it's a symbol of like humility, of surrender, of hunger, of desperation. And this was about a year ago when I started seeing all these young people bowing down in prayer. And I thought to myself, I feel like I need to bow down, and then I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I was having this like wrestle in my head, and then I'm not going to do it. And then literally fear won the day. Like I didn't bow, and I opened my eyes, and everybody around me was bowing on their knees, like just in prayer and worship, and I wasn't. And I was just like, how many times am I going to let fear like just rob me of just getting into God's presence and worshiping him? Wow. So I made a decision on that day. Whenever I feel a sense of like there's an opportunity to get down and bow and before him and prayer, to do it. I think the reason I was hesitant because I didn't want to look like this goody two shoes Christian trying extra hard, like that was what was in my head. And since then, every time I've bowed, I've just experienced God's presence in a way that I've never done before, like in a real, like just tangible way. Not that it should ever be about chasing a feeling, but just sitting in his presence, bowing is one of the most beautiful things. And I think this generation has like really sparked and inspired that. And so, in answer to your question, which I'm aware it's a bit of a waffle, is just,
no, I love it.
Get on your knees in prayer and just join together and get hungry.
How can we pray for you when someone's listening to this and we finish this podcast and they're in their car, they're at their house or whatever, and they take just a minute to pray for you as the leader of this, particularly in Alpha? What do you want people to pray?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one leader with many who are really excited. And I was like literally the last couple of months I've been chatting to youth leaders in Australia, in Northern Ireland, in Asia, and like everybody is like really hungry and really excited about what God is doing. And so I think, to pray for those leaders, because like the enemy's not going to want this to happen. So that's to really pray for them, really intercede for them, really encourage them. But then I think we also need to make sure that we don't look at each other's churches in comparison and think God's moving there, not here. They must be doing something right. I'm doing something wrong. There's this term called collective grandeur narcissism. It's where collectively you think you are better than someone else. And I've been around churches where they think they're like the Manchester United and the local church is like Scunthorpe United, which is like a rubbish football team here. Yeah. I think I'm seeing unity in a whole nother level right now with all these different denominations. And I think what would squash this move of God is if we start going, God's moving here. Look at this. Look at us. He's not there. He's here. But if we can just like have that posture of unity and encouragement, and just say, just praying for every church, regardless of size, regardless of style, regardless of denomination, then I think again God will continue to fan into flames what He's doing.
I'm very Catholic curious. I love what we're seeing happen in the Catholic Church as well. So I think it's this opportunity to go. Anyone who confesses Jesus at their church and says that He is the one Son of God who died and rose again, I want them to win. I want them to have full seats. And it's a thing my friends and I are talking about right now too, Dan, of this, what you just mentioned of there is an uptick in every kind of spirituality. And it feels like everything God is doing, I feel more of a pushback from the enemy than I've ever felt.
For sure.
There's a spiritual increase, and it isn't just the good guy, but it isn't just the bad guy either. There's a spiritual increase that is just more people are open than they've ever been. And those of us in the middle of it, like you and I, and all of our friends listening, we're in the middle of more pushback than I've ever experienced too.
Absolutely. I know.
Are you feeling that?
Yeah, massively. Like I've never been the guy who's felt like spiritual attack. Like I've gone through hardship, but I never thought it was a spiritual thing. But like more recently, like literally, like in terms of like spiritual attack, and I'm not that guy who's always going, it's the devil, it's the devil, it's the devil. Like I'm just not. But like literally, I've been down the front at altar calls praying, like Lord, like praying for God's protection and help, and just because like you feel it, you feel God's presence and His glory more than ever before, and you can clearly tell like the enemy is not happy about it.
Yeah. So we get on our knees and we pray.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for modeling that for us, because that is, to me, everything changes when you bow and pray and when you bow to worship. I mean, it's just different. It's different. All right. Is there anything we didn't say that you want to make sure we say?
No, thank you for your time. It is, it's summer here, so I'm afraid I've been sweating a lot while I've been doing this podcast. I hope that's all right.
I have not one time noticed. You're fine. Also, you'll be proud to know I thought of the other club I love, Bournemouth.
Yes, Bournemouth are amazing. Yeah, so Charlie grew up just by Bournemouth.
That's when you said it, I was like, I think it's Bournemouth. I didn't bring it to my mind. And then a minute ago, I wrote it down. I was like, don't forget to remind me.
Yeah.
So everyone who was worried about me forgetting my number 2 premier team, Bournemouth.
Arsenal, Bournemouth.
That's it. Are you headed to the U.S. anytime soon? Do I get to see y'all anytime?
Yes, I'm heading to LA in September. We're recording a conversation with John Mark Comer, and I know you just did a chat with him.
Love him,
we're really leaning into the space now. Like if Alpha Youth is for evangelism, like, what does the discipleship space look like for young people?
Yeah, beautiful.
And I know really that's the job of the local church to disciple, but wouldn't it be amazing if there was a few ways where, you can think practicing the way for teenagers or other just tools to help, all generations disciple this influx of new believers. So I'll be there in September.
Brilliant. Thanks for all you do, Dan. I love you and Charlie so much. I'm so thankful for the work you do. And it is an exciting time. This is like, y'all better put on the armor of God every morning, friends listening, and let's get going. Like, greater is He that's in us than he that's in the world. But this is a fun time to be alive.
Yeah, thank you, Annie, and thank you just for doing what you're doing, creating the space that you create, and just speaking the way you do. It brings life, so I'm very grateful.
You're kind, my friend. Thank you. Oh, you guys, isn't he awesome? My gosh, I just love Dan. I love his wife, Charlie. I love what they are up to in the world. Charlie works for 821, and Dan, obviously, working so much and in such an interesting way for Alpha and the lives of the next generation. I'm just so thankful. He told you all the ways. You can see the links in the show notes of how to get the resources you need from Alpha and how we should pray. Make sure you head over to social media. Tell Dan, thank you for being on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you're also going to love episode 978 from this spring when we talked about revival with John Tyson. It's going to light you up, you guys. If you have any questions from this episode, drop them in the Q&A box on your Spotify app if you're a Spotify listener like me, or send them to us on Instagram at That Sounds Fun Podcast. We'll try to answer them there. If you need anything else from me, I'm embarrassingly easy to find. Annie F. Downs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere you may need me, that's where you can find me. And I think that's it for me today, friends. Go out or stay home, do something that sounds fun, and I will do the same. Today, what sounds fun to me is going to the fair. Williamson County Fair is on, and I'm going. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you back here on Monday with an incredible conversation with George and Tandra Gregory. If you have thoughts about marriage, questions about marriage, or you're just working through your own marriage, or you want to be married, George and Tandra are the experts we need. We'll talk about it on Monday. See y'all then.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Check 1, 2 on the microphone. NEF Downs in your car to your home. Every week it's something new. A deep talk or an interview. She'll make you laugh, she'll make you cry. When it's dark out, she's a light. When you're down, get your feeling right. Oh man, that sounds